Imagine you're a professional carpenter. You're trained to build houses and you've learned how to build them up to code in different regions, how to build them on hills and valleys and areas with extreme variance of climate and so forth. You even regularly study the latest research on what techniques are most effective for producing the highest quality homes that you possibly can. You are paid to manufacture a specific product and have rigorous sets of standards and evaluations laid before you, which on paper you agree should be expected of a professional carpenter. Imagine that when you arrive at your job site, the raw materials the contractor has provided you to work with range from premium quality to completely unacceptable. The concrete is fresh and properly prepared by professionals, stored in optimal conditions for your application, but the rebar is bent, rusty, and brittle. Large sections of the wood are gnarled and rotten. The screws and bolts are stripped and nearly impossible to drill and tighten. The plumbing and electrical materials you need are only available about 60% of the time if you're lucky. You get the idea. That's one facet of what a public school teacher deals with on a daily basis. No matter how talented, educated, and compassionate a teacher may be, it's impossible to produce the desired result without quality raw materials, which in the teacher's case is the students themselves. Teachers are by and large judged based on the performances of their students. An 11th grade English teacher is expected to have all of his or her students reading, analyzing, and comprehending various types of literature on what's deemed to be an 11th grade level or higher, despite the fact that some of those students have been read to since they were newborns and others have never opened a book until they came to public schools. A middle school algebra teacher is expected to have all of his or her students performing algebraic equations to the same standard, despite that some of them learned basic addition and subtraction as toddlers, while others found a kindergarten teacher to be literally the first adult to bother explaining what numbers even are. So, while it's obvious that judging teachers based on how their students perform on tests is unfair and ineffective, that's just a side note of this video. The real point is the importance of those raw materials and how public education can address them in order to consistently reach a realistic full potential. So, how do we produce a more even keel of well-prepared students who are ready to embrace the curriculum before them and advance consistently? How do we improve intrinsic motivation in students and address the ever-intangible issue of student apathy? In my experience, there is one factor that transcends race, gender, socioeconomic status, and even mental disabilities in terms of student performance in those areas. That factor, which I've already alluded to, is consistent and balanced parental involvement. Most people in this conversation, both in and out of education, will say that parenting is the parent's job, and the school has no business telling them how to do it and what to do, diverting funds or focus from students to parents and so forth. I think that's a defensive and backwards way of thinking, considering a school system should make its citizens as intelligent, well-informed, and work-ready as we reasonably can. Being that the bulk of significant long-term cognitive development takes place in the earliest ages, it only makes sense that the school system values that time accordingly. Now, I'm not suggesting by any means that public schools should start at a younger age. I'm also not suggesting that parents enforce government-mandated parenting techniques. Rather, I'm suggesting that all schools at pre-K through 12th grade offer regular classes at flexible times that provide information to parents that will help them based on the most pertinent research for pre-K students and based on school curriculum per grade level for students who are already in school at the larger grades. Specific classes for parents of students or future students with learning and emotional impairments should also be offered. Provision of daycare at the younger grade levels during these courses would provide an incentive for parents who may otherwise have not bothered to show up. Some may insist that information is free on the internet and that common sense dictates positive parenting advice. Things like spending time with kids and reading to them or with them, rather than just putting them in front of DVD cartoons all day, is a no-brainer. Well, that may be true from your perspective. Assuming that every parent in the country is privy to such information, understands the importance of doing so, or has internet access to begin with, is foolish and naive. Many people suffer from the philosophy that they turned out all right, so whatever their parents did is acceptable to do to their own kids. That leads to children of apathetic parents becoming apathetic parents themselves and continuing a cycle of ignorance and, to some extent, unintentional negligence based on tradition. Now, even if they are aware and concerned and compassionate parents, some need encouragement to do so to consistently be reminded of the importance of those responsibilities. Teenagers with an interest in becoming young parents could attend those same classes to garner a keener perspective on the responsibilities of parenting, and the parents who attend could become a network of resources for each other. It's really a winning situation from all angles, except the fact that it needs to be funded, but I'm a firm believer it's worth the investment. Making those services available to parents is only the first step if the parental involvement initiative is going to reach its full potential. What really needs to happen is a paradigm shift in our culture that puts an emphasis on what makes a quality parent and what our society values. More importantly, that cultural value needs to transcend socioeconomic status as few values do, which is at the crux of the challenge. The importance for parents to actively contribute to the intellectual development of their infants, children, and teenagers needs to be comparable with the importance of feeding them. It needs to become clear to our society that starving young developing minds is every bit as tragic as starving young developing bodies. If we as a society can make that clear and parents can understand that it's a non-negotiable responsibility to be appropriately invested in that development, I believe the services provided to help them will be put to genuinely effective use. That's asking for a great deal, and it's almost asking for the impossible, but keep in mind that such shifts start slowly and build momentum. They take time and encouragement to sink in and get going, but for something as valuable as this, it's worth the effort, and it's worth the wait. Just imagine the world we could build if all of our educators had quality tools and premium raw materials.